Hello, this is Published2019 Grover. Thank you for listening to today's presentation on the book Published, written by me. First, Write a Great Story, Mary Vollmer. Storytelling has probably been around from the time people started using language, and even before that time with pictures drawn on cave walls. Some stories have been passed down generation through generation after generation. And new stories are created every day. Through the beautiful art of storytelling, we learn meaningful lessons, experience places we could have never imagined, and discover unique characters. There are some of us out there that love to tell the story and express it through words. There are some of us who love to read the tales spun by one another. There are so many of us who love to watch stories in movies and TV. Those genres tell stories too. But behind all these methods of storytelling is the writer. How does the writer's work make its way to the bookshelf or onto the screen? Let's examine the publishing industry and the process of selling one's work. Publishing, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the occupation of business or activity of preparing and issuing books, journals, and other material for sale. In my research project, I read about publishing and interviewed two local authors, Vanessa Hua and Mary Vollmer. Hello, Vanessa. Hello, Mary. There are two different ways of publishing, traditional publishing and self-publishing. According to Jane Friedman, who has had more than 20 years in the business, a traditional publishing deal is the dream, or what most writers imagine when they think about getting published. In this arrangement, the publisher pays you for the right to publish your work. They cover all costs and pay the writer in advance. Most writers want a traditional publishing offer. Let's take a look at what's involved. John Reed, an author and founder of the website Publishing Talk, Write It, Publish It, Sell It, outlines the steps of getting a book published. Step 1. Mr. Reed explains that identifying genre can help attract future publishers, agents, and readers. It's like when Amazon suggests you might like a similar product you've previously purchased or looked at. Readers often like books of similar genres, like science fiction or YA. Step 2. Showcasing writing can be multiple things, such as entering writing contests, sharing writing with other writing pals, or both. Mr. Reed calls it a platform. Without multiple pieces of work, it's hard to prove one is enthusiastic about writing and is good at it. Step 3. Finding the right literary agent cannot be overlooked. Most publishers will only accept submissions via a literary agent. John Reed says, in some ways, getting an agent is more important than getting a publisher. Agents can help with other things too. They have connections, they handle media deals, and in some cases even give advice on one's writing. They usually take about 10 to 15% of the profits. One must also prepare materials to submit to an agent and deal with contracts, if one is lucky. Now let's take a look at self-publishing. The upside here is that the process moves quickly and that the author has more control. Books may be published electronically, as in ebooks, or there are companies that print out physical copies of books. Ms. Friedman explains, you, the writer, act as your publisher and hire the help you need to help publish your work, generally through Amazon and other major retailers. Morris Publishing, a self-publishing service, cites the advantages of owning all the book rights and the ability to keep all or most of the profits from sale. Morris Publishing. However, the author must front the cost of printing. Also, it is very rare to self-publish a bestseller, though not impossible, as these books here became huge hits. A service called POD, Print on Demand, is a way to print books one at a time, but it's complicated. Jane Friedman discusses this in her article on self-publishing. Unit cost is much higher, which can lead to more costly retail price. She continues, one's book can sell in retailers such as Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Most readers cannot tell the difference between POD printed work and versus offset printed work. However, again, it's complicated. Very few self-published books make it to the bestseller list. Mary Vollmer said, some companies are more interested in making money than in making great books. So beware. The publishing industry is changing because of self-published ebooks and audiobooks. However, when this topic was mentioned, Mary Vollmer said, one thing stays the same though. We will always need good stories. Great stories find a place in this world. Okay, enough with the nuts and bolts about publishing, and more to the real heart and soul of writing is the writer's passion. Most authors become interested in writing at a young age, although not all. As you'll see, I interviewed two local authors, Vanessa Hua and Mary Vollmer, for their perspectives about writing, publishing, and what they were like as middle school students. Vanessa Hua is a best-selling author who grew up in Orinda and is now currently lives in Orinda with her young family. Her novel River of the Stars was named one of the best books of 2018 by NPR and the Washington Post. I had the pleasure of speaking with her about writing. I asked what she liked to read at my age, and she listed a few series, but then said, honestly, I'd go down to the Orinda Library, just pick something interesting off the shelf. She also said, I read the book Little Women. Later on, she said, maybe the lesson I learned was that you have to try it and send your work out. I remember vividly scenes in the books where they sent off their work and waited to see what would happen. Sometimes they received criticism, other times they won writing contests, and others they were praised from their teachers. It was an example that you could want to do this, and that people were doing this. Not only the story in my book, but actually the book in my hands was an example that someone in real life had also thought, okay, not only is there a character who wants to become a writer, but there was actually a young woman who decided, I want to write a book, and they did. And I was holding that result in my hands. During our call, I asked what helped her get her book published, and in response, she said, always try to become a part of literary communities. That is to say, go to book readings, trade other work with writers, volunteer at events. There are so many in the Bay Area. Take writing classes. That's where you're going to find your tribe. That is where you're going to find the people who will say, hey, let me introduce you to my agent. Remembering her as a young child, Miss Hua said, I wanted to be a writer ever since I was a little girl. I began writing stories in elementary school. Miss Vollmer, a writer of historical fiction and author of Crown of Dust, has a different perspective. I always loved to read and write, make up stories and live inside them, but I didn't always love to write. Writing was hard. It still is. It's hard to get a story out of your body and onto the page. Both authors had different journeys, but they both love stories, writing and reading them. Though both of these authors have had different experiences publishing their books and becoming authors, they both have successfully published their books. Being a writer takes bravery, determination, passion, and patience. Mary Vollmer wrote this advice to me. Be patient. Sometimes writing is like driving down an open highway. There you are in a car speeding along towards some place you're super excited to reach. The words are coming fast and the story is clear as a sunny day. And sometimes writing is like driving in rush hour traffic on a rainy day. You inch along and all you can see is the bumper in front of you. Writers who finish books are the ones who just keep going. Fast or slow, they just keep going. Thank you for listening to my presentation. The end.